Welcome to Theory of Pets. I'm a passionate pet owner with a drive to help others like me uncover the truth about the pet industry and what goes on behind the scenes. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Theory of Pets. As you know, I like to talk about all things pets. And this week I was able to speak with Liz from a company called Zoom Room. And if you don't have a Zoom Room in your area, they are a fantastic new, or fairly new, I guess, franchise that is growing. And it's actually an indoor dog training gym. And they have locations nationwide. Liz will talk a little bit more about where the locations are and how you can find those. They do offer obedience and agility classes, as well as puppy training classes, things like that. But they also offer play groups, and it's just a really great way for dogs to get out and about with their owners. And I thought, especially with, it's springtime. As you know, if you follow my podcast, I live in Maine, so we are coming out of a very long, very boring winter with our dogs. We do try and find exciting ways to get out and about with them. Thankfully, our dogs are younger, but when we've had older dogs in the past, it's more difficult to get out in the snow and on the ice. So having somewhere indoor to go would be great. And when I saw Zoom Room, I thought, what a wonderful franchise that would be to have in our area. Unfortunately, we don't yet, but I am hoping to see one in the near future. But I wanted to talk with Liz. She had some great tips about bringing your dog out and about. There aren't Zoom Room locations all around the country, but they do have a few. And again, Liz will give you some information on that. But if you don't have a Zoom Room or a dog park, an indoor dog park, something like that in your area, which most of us don't, there's some great ways to get out with your pet, but still keep him safe, keep yourself safe, and have a really great time. So Liz gave us a lot of great pointers and tips that I can share with you today. So I will let you guys listen to the interview and get that advice from her. Summer is on its way, and a lot of pet owners are starting to get out and about with their dogs. I know I'm in Maine, so it came a little later for us, but we are starting to get outside. Yeah.
Where in Maine are you?
We're just a little bit north of Bangor, central Maine.
Okay. Up there, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Islesboro in July. My parents live there all summer, and my aunt and uncle live in Portland, so we're.
Oh, Islesboro is beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. I love Maine. Not enough to live there. But.
Yeah, I mean, I love it most of the year. January and February, not so much, but things are starting to melt. We're starting to get outside. We love to be active with our dogs. We do a lot of hiking and things with them. So could you share some tips with pet owners to make sure that their dogs are safe while they're walking out on the city streets or maybe at the dog park, wherever they might go?
Yeah, it's there's a bunch of things that owners can do on different fronts to help themselves and their dogs have a more enjoyable time out in, generally speaking, public, right? Whether that be hiking in a park or at an outdoor dining restaurant or at a dog park or anything like that. There's a few things. One is we hate retractable leashes. I don't think that you can find a trainer in the world who is a fan of retractable leashes. There's even rumor that some states are planning on banning them, California included, which would be amazing from our point of view.
I agree.
There's a big safety issue with retractable leashes. There's injuries that happen to humans frequently. Some of them pretty gnarly in terms of like a rope burn that can come from that leash. Yeah, I've seen some really horrendous scar tissue. And
I was going to say, I've seen them actually cut through people's skin. A burn is like the least of your worries.
Yeah, no, I've seen people have needed plastic surgery and things like that, and you really can't control for it, whether somebody else's retractable leash or yours.
Right.
And there's no way that your hand can move fast enough to retract it and lock it. It doesn't happen when there's a panicky sort of situation or a dog bolts or something. Your brain just can't think fast enough. It's kind of like pushing the brake on a car before an accident. You only have a certain amount of time, and your brain can't keep up with what's happening. So the other thing with retractable leashes is that they tend to allow the dog to control the walk rather than you controlling the walk. So they get tangled around fire hydrants and poles and bushes and shrubs, and they're wandering off towards other dogs and you're not noticing because you're talking to somebody. And so one of the first things is don't use a retractable leash. It's not safe. It's not good for your training. Stick with, a 6 foot or a 4 foot leash, or even what's called a traffic lead, especially in urban areas and city environments where you really don't want your dog straying at all. And they're not sniffing grass and trees and things. They're walking in a city on the sidewalk. Traffic leads are much shorter, more designed for larger dogs. They don't work well if your dog is all the way down low on the ground. But for a larger breed of dog, a traffic lead just gives you a nice handle and enough, like 18 inches to connect to the dog, and then they can't wander anywhere. So that's a good tip for safety in particular. Another one is just recognizing your own dog's inherent personality and traits. If you have a dog that has a really high prey drive, you need to be careful that they're not bolting and knocking you over, dragging you down because they see a squirrel or a bird or whatever, fill in the blank, whatever your dog's passion is for chasing. You also want to make sure that you've got like a harness on your dog if they tend to be a big puller. There's a huge misconception, and a lot of it comes from bad advertising, that any old harness will help control your dog. And some of them clip on the back, on the top of the dog's back, and some clip in the front on their chest. If the harness clips on the back of the top of your dog's back, I don't care what it says on the package, unless it's a pain-based product that's like pinching terribly, right. It is not going to control your dog's pulling. In fact, it's going to cause them to rear up on their hind legs more often. It turns them into like a husky sled dog. It triggers a thing called an oppositional reflex that they can't control. It's a reflex that makes them want to pull harder because they feel the pressure. So, safety and also training-wise, a front clip harness is the only way to go when it comes to harnesses.
That's excellent advice. I know a lot of dog owners, especially this time of year, like I said, summer's coming, spring's here. People are getting out and about and they're looking for the products that they can use that are going to be the easiest. I get asked all the time about no pull harness. People use that term no pull. Well, yep. It is about the products you use, but it is also about the training. So I'm glad that you touched on both of those. That's important.
Exactly. You got to combine it. And if you're, we at Zoom Room, we do all positive reinforcement-based dog training. So, of course, we really, really frown upon prong collars and especially choke chains. Choke chains don't have any mechanism by which to stop choking your dog. So if your dog is really intent on pulling towards something, another dog, a squirrel, whatever, there is nothing in that device to stop it from choking your dog. And so, it's really cutting off air supply. It's very damaging to the trachea and esophagus. And I have commonly seen in dogs who use choke chains in particular, petechial hemorrhaging, which is little teeny burst blood vessels in the eyes. When you pull down the eyes, you see that. The other place you see that in our world, this is a little macabre, but in strangling victims, that's where you see it. It's so much pressure that it's bursting blood vessels. And you see it in dogs who use choke chains. You see it really regularly. And their owners, they're not meaning to do, they're not malicious people. They have no idea what's happening. So yeah, the worst of the worst when it comes to safety for your dog is a straight up choke chain. There's just nothing to stop it from choking. So, in terms of like what's the worst, that's the worst for the health of your dog. Prong collars we don't like just because they're pain based, and we strongly believe that there are just ways to control your dog that don't include pain that work just as well, such as a front clip harness or a nose leash, like a gentle lead or
the gentle leads.
Yep, they work. That's like the Cadillac of control with your dog. But like you said, you've got to add the training in. Every piece of equipment can be combated by your dog. Your dog can be intelligent enough to figure out, oh, well, if I just walk sideways, or
For
if I do
sure.
this, or if I do that. They can figure these out. You can rely on them to help your dog learn and to help give you peace of mind and comfort so your arms aren't getting ripped off. But you have to add the training component in as well.
Absolutely. And we're seeing this common trend with establishments being pet friendly. So some people are taking their dogs shopping or out to restaurants, things like that. Yep. Do you have some tips for pet owners that maybe want to take their dogs out? And where could they find establishments that are pet friendly in their area?
Yeah. So, most owners, when we talk to owners, most of the time we say, what do you want out of your relationship with your dog? One of the top answers is we want to be able to bring our dogs to dog-friendly places. But, that is a privilege, not a right. So if your dog is not emotionally stable, not only might you be disturbing other people, shoppers, restaurant patrons, your own peace of mind, but you might be doing damage to your dog emotionally. So we always tell people, if your dog is a barker, whether they bark because it's in their nature, it's in their DNA, they're just more of a barking type breed, or whether it's because they are afraid of something and they bark out of fear, or whether they're demand barkers and they bark at you for attention, they don't belong in dog-friendly places until that has been trained and addressed, which is doable. That is all doable. But you can't, just because you want your dog in Nordstrom's, which is a very dog-friendly place, doesn't mean that your dog should be in Nordstrom's if your dog is barking. Like, that's just not, not appropriate for outdoor dining places or things like that. And that's it, barking is a common one. It's also very easily trained. Or if your dog has fear issues, if your dog is really afraid of other dogs and tends to react on the leash, or is really afraid of men or loud noises, you have to be sensitive. You have to be your dog's advocate. And you have to be sensitive to those things and recognize that your wants and needs may not at all be in line with your dog's wants and needs. And either work on those in a training environment or respect that in your dog. If you have an 8-year-old dog who's petrified of other dogs, you can and should work on that. But you're not going to Nordstrom's right now. You have an 8-year-old dog who's had that in their life as a habit as an emotional problem for 8 years. It's not going to go away overnight. It's going to take time. And so those things are important to recognize. Nuisance behavior versus sort of emotional behaviors, they can all be addressed and trained. But until that time, you're really not doing your dog any favors by taking them to places like that. But assuming that your dog is pretty stable and emotionally secure and has basic training and all of that, they're not afraid of other dogs or strange people or strange sounds or strange textures or any of that, then the best way to find dog-friendly places, there's some great websites. BringFido.com is one of the best. That's probably the most popular. And then some states have very specific to their states, a company that has started up a site to kind of track dog-friendly places in your state. Like in California, we have dogtrekker.com, which is amazing. But Bring Fido covers everything. The other thing you can do is search on Yelp. A lot of people don't realize that you can go into Yelp's search field and say best dog-friendly restaurant or dog-friendly restaurant.
Oh.
And they will all they will also pull up and highlight in the reviews where people have said, like, oh, this is a great place to take your dog, or this is not a good place to take your dog.
Fantastic.
Yep, so you can find some lists on Yelp that way. You can also just do a general Google search, or if in doubt, just search for your area. If you live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just do a general dog-friendly Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and see what comes up, or dog-friendly restaurants or parks. You can go to individual websites if you know that there's a park that you want to go to and you want to know if your dog can be off-leash in that park or even be in that park. Then you can go straight to the website, of course, as well. Or, last ditch, I know we're modern times, we don't like to do this, but you can pick up the phone and call a place. And especially if you want to get more nuanced. If you know that a restaurant has a dog-friendly patio, but you want to know if you have a Newfoundland or a Mastiff or a very, very large breed of dog, and you kind of want to get a feel for, well, yeah, they have a dog-friendly patio, but is it going to fit my dog? Are we going to have space? Is it my dog going to be banging into other people's chairs? Then it's good to pick up the phone and call the restaurant and ask them for some specifics.
Yeah, I think the specifics are important, and not necessarily most of the time if it's a public place like a restaurant or a shopping center, your dog has to be on a leash. But even outdoor places, a lot of times people go and expect that they can just let their dog, run around and have a great time, and it's still you have to have a leash. Or some places where, vice versa, you think you maybe have to keep your dog on a leash, you might be able to run free and get a game of fetch or something in.
Yep, and it's important to know when you're going to a place that allows for off-leash dogs, and usually these are, hiking parks. Almost every national forest in our country is off-leash dog-friendly, almost. National parks are all pretty much not dog-friendly, and certainly not off-leash dog-friendly, but very not dog-friendly to begin with. So there's, if you're looking at big picture type stuff, like national parks, national forests, camping trips, you really have to pay attention to who allows what. But as a general rule, national parks are not dog-friendly. National forests are. But regionally, when you're looking at state parks or county parks and things, even if they're off-leash dog-friendly, you do want to know, but what are the rules? They'll say you have to, like you mentioned, you have to carry a 6-foot leash with you at all times, right? So that you can hook your dog up if you need to. They may have rules like your dog must be under voice control at all times and actually listen to your voice. So if you know that your dog is notorious for not coming when called, then you probably should brush up on your training so that your dog does not disturb others, does not get in a dog fight with some dog who is not dog friendly, doesn't chase off after a deer or a squirrel or whatever and disappear and now they're lost. So, even if it's off-leash dog friendly, you really should pay attention to the specific rules they have about that off-leash privilege, and then figure out if you need to do any extra training and brush up on some things, whether it be professional training or just, some dog training skills are perishable. Your dog learned them as a puppy. Come when called is the most famous one. And now as a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old, they're not doing it anymore. They don't want to come when called. It's not fun for them. You're ruining their good time. So brush up at home as well, and just make sure that you can follow those rules. And if your dog has a really high prey drive and loves to chase animals, and you're going to a park with a lot of wildlife, keep your dog on the leash. That's not fair to the wildlife.
Absolutely. So speaking of leashes and harnesses and that kind of stuff, what sort of supplies do you recommend that pet owners absolutely have on hand when they're taking their dog out and about to a public place?
Yeah, so in addition to front clip harnesses, if your dog has a tendency to pull, one of my all-time favorite products, and every Zoom room sells them, they're fantastic. It's a smaller company. It's called Sadie's Pet Products, and Sadie's leash in particular is like a miracle. It is the best thing if you love to take your dog to places. It's called a Sadie's 8-in-1 safety leash, but it is kind of like a regular nylon leash. Comes in very tiny widths, like a half an inch width for smaller dogs up through an inch for larger dogs. They're all 6 feet long, standard length, but it's 2 pieces of nylon, and they're stitched together at intervals all the way up the leash. So you actually have a handle like every 6 inches, I think it is. What that means is that in addition to being able to go from having a 6-foot leash to a 1-foot leash if you need to by grabbing lower down on the leash, it also means that you can tether your dog at a restaurant or an outdoor bar or wherever you need to tether your dog to your chair or table or something like that, but you don't have to tether at the 6-foot mark. So with a regular 6-foot leash or even a 4-foot leash, you loop the handle around the leg of the chair and you loop the leash through and attach it to your dog, and they have the full length of the leash minus 3 inches. With a Sadie's leash, you can tether through the loop at any point down the leash. So you can say, we're in a restaurant. I need my dog to stay really, really close to me. In fact, I want them to be able to sit up and lay down, and that's about it. I don't want them roaming, looking for food on the ground. And so you can loop your leash through and tether to your chair or the leg of your table at the low spot on the leash, and they only have a foot of leash or whatever it is that you put it at. So it's you can change the settings on where you can tether your dog, which is fantastic for restaurants and tighter spaces. If you are lucky enough to live in an area like Austin, Texas, where they have outdoor restaurants and bars that are actually inside dog parks, then, you might say, okay, my dog's done playing. I need them to stay really close to me. I don't want them meeting other dogs right now. We're done. And so you can sort of select the size of leash that you want your dog to have so that they're not roaming away from you, bothering other guests. So that's great. Generally speaking, for equipment, you always want to make sure you have water or access to water. So we always recommend that people carry some type of receptacle for your dog to drink out of. Obviously, you don't want to share your drinking vessel with your dog. There's some great products out there. H2O for Canine makes a great water bottle that the lid for it actually extends down the length of the bottle, and it's like a bowl for your dog. So you take the lid off and it turns into the bowl, like a hard plastic bowl. And they come in 2 sizes for little dogs versus big dogs. Ollie Dog is a smaller, wonderful, philanthropic, fantastic company that makes great products, and they make an Ollie bottle that is actually designed so that you could really share with your dog. You can have one water bottle, and it has an attachment on it that acts as the bowl for your dog, and then you can also drink out of it as well, and it keeps it sort of separated.
Oh, cool.
So if you wanted to share, you could. Not so true with the H2O for Canine bottle, because the lid is the drinking bowl for your dog, so that would contaminate your water. But with the Ollie bottle, you can actually share the water. There's, of course, lots of different collapsible silicone bowls. Ollie also makes a product called the Sipper, that's sort of a folding bowl that opens up. They come in cute designs. So something like that. If you're just going to a restaurant, it's totally fine to ask the restaurant to bring, if it's dog friendly, they probably already do this anyway, but to ask them for a bowl, right? Something like that. But if you don't want to share, if you're concerned about illnesses and diseases being transferred through water bowls from different dogs drinking, because they're probably not cleaning them as regularly as you might at home. Then bring your own bowl so you don't have to worry about cross-contamination or anything like that. We also recommend, especially for restaurants, dogs tend to feel safer and more confident when they're lying on some sort of soft surface. It's one of those sort of weird, why do they all seem to do that? But they do. So if you have a roll-up travel mat that you can bring for your dog and put down on the ground, they tend to, even without any training, they tend to stick to that mat a little more. So there's a company called Mutt Mats out of, I believe they're in Delaware, if I remember correctly. Mutt Mats makes a really easy to carry roll up, sort of like a yoga mat, but it's made out of soft material.
Oh, cool.
And highly washable. They come in a million colors. You can have the top be one color and the bottom be another color. They're not a bed. It's just a mat with some very thin filling in it, just very thin. Those are easy and wonderful for carrying around and having to put a place to put down for your dog. Something like that. Then if you have the training and you can actually train your dog to stay on the mat and to consider it sort of like this magic carpet that they stay on and they want to be on it. And so that's another really good thing to bring, especially for a restaurant where you know you're going to be sitting for a while and you need your dog to stay put. So a mat, and then combine the mat if you can with training, and you'll have a dog that really just lays down and just is really calm and well-behaved at a restaurant, not getting up all the time. So those are some great things. Water, of course, a mat if you're going to be in a restaurant in particular, the appropriate leash and harness or collar, and then also if you are going to be gone for a while, obviously you need things like food, or also at a restaurant, if you are concerned that your dog might get bored or not have the attention span, so to speak, to sit still for a long period of time like that, bring some kind of chew for them, something, a bully stick, something long-lasting that they can chew on for a while. Just be aware that the other dogs in the restaurant might be jealous, so pay attention. If there's a dog off-leash, that's terrible. Hopefully the restaurant doesn't allow that. But, if other dogs are straining at the pulling because they're curious about your dog's delicious, smelly object, that's just something to be aware of. But generally speaking, if you bring some kind of bully stick or chew of some kind that's longer lasting, as soon as you start to notice your dog getting antsy or bored, give it to them and give them something to do for the next 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a great tip for sure. So some pet parents might be looking for something else to do inside with their dog. And especially, if the weather's not so great, maybe through the winter if you live somewhere like that, or on a rainy day. Can you tell us a little bit about Zoom Room and what it's all about?
Sure. So Zoom Room is an indoor dog training facility, and we specialize in all different kinds of training, and all of it is geared towards the average pet owner. And what I mean by that is we don't compete. Even though we do things that traditionally are competitive dog sports, we don't compete in them. Competition sports can be very intimidating for a lot of dog owners, and they're not interested in doing that. The time, the money, all of that. They just want fun things to do with their dog. And so we took a lot of really sort of specialized dog training programs and recreated them into a format that is applicable for all dogs, regardless of age, breed, size, and non-competitive, to make them very warm and welcoming. And so for training, we do all of the standards like obedience training all the way up through therapy dog training. Then we also, one of our most popular programs is agility. And we have 4 levels of agility, so you can stay busy for a very long time with your dog doing agility. It's fantastic physical exercise for your dog. It's also a really nice low-impact physical activity for humans as well. And we make it so that with our agility courses, all of our equipment is fully adjustable. And so we have puppy agility. We can make it very, very safe for their growing joints and bones. And then we can also have big dogs doing it too. And so 4 levels of agility training. We have a league for people when they finish that and want to get sort of friendly competitive. And we have a friendly league that we do. We also then do things like if you have a shy dog and who's afraid of their own shadow and afraid of the washing machine noise and loud traffic or anything like that, we have a shy dog program. It's very transformative for shy dogs to help them come out of their shell and get over those fears and to really help the owners figure out how to help them through that process. We have a program called Calm Down for very, very hyperactive dogs that no matter how much exercise they seem to get, it's not enough. They're still like a bull in a china shop. They have impulse control issues, and oftentimes they're like young pit bulls, young labs, juvenile dogs, teenagers, high energy dogs, Malinois, German Shepherds, things like that. We also do scent work, right, which is also commonly called canine nose work.
Yeah.
And this is based on real working dogs. This is my personal favorite program of them all, and my dog adores doing scent work, and I love teaching scent work to people and their dogs. So it's based on bomb sniffing, drug sniffing, real working dogs, the same sort of curriculum, and then we've made it approachable for all dogs. And it's the type of workshop where it's all brain strain. There's nothing physical going on at all. We're working your dogs. We're watching their gears churn in their brain, which is wonderful. Most dogs, they may get plenty of physical exercise, but not a lot of mental stimulation. And so this is a great way to stimulate their brains. Wonderful for senior dogs, wonderful for hyperactive dogs, really good for any dog. And that is something, to your point of long winters, rainy days, you can do it in home, and it's so much fun. And it's not like people are like, oh, is that like where you just hide a treat and you have your dog find it? No, way more complicated than that. They have to learn specific scents. We start with birch oil, and they have to learn how to recognize birch, that scent, from every other scent, and they have to understand that when they find it, a reward comes their way. And a lot of dogs learn how to do an alert, like a sit or something, or a bark, to tell you, it's here, I found it. And you can make scent work very, very complicated. And so we have we have 2 levels of scent, and then we have scent classes for advanced scent dogs as well. We also do urban herding, which a lot of people have not heard of. It's also called tribal. It's a German hobby or German sport that recently came over the pond into America. It's probably the newest dog sport in our country. You don't see a lot of competitive urban herding yet. And urban herding was designed for dogs that live in major urban environments. They're city-dwelling dogs who have herding instincts, and they have no sheep because they live in the city. There's nothing to herd. So it was originally designed for those dogs. So instead of herding sheep, they learn how to herd yoga balls, which is
cool.
so much fun. It's awesome to watch them herd them. They herd them through goals, and it's based on real herding. So you, as the handler, will learn herding commands: come by, away to me, go out, different commands, a lot of distance-based learning, which is really challenging for your dog. They're usually used to doing sit, stay down right next to you, and this is like away from you. And they have to learn how to push those balls on command. We like to use white yoga balls and paint sheep's faces on them. And they have to learn how to push them on command, but then also how to push them in specific directions. So very challenging, very fun, awesome activity. And a lot of dogs will go home and love pushing yoga balls around their backyard. So that's another really good one for brain strain and learning new things. So that's the kind of stuff that we do at Zoom Room. And a lot of these things can be transferred to home. Agility is a little harder. Can't set up an agility course inside your house. But scent work, and even to some extent, depending on the setup of your house, urban herding can be done indoors as well. So those are really good things to do in the winter or during bad weather. Tricks, that's another one. We didn't even mention tricks. We have 2 different levels of tricks classes that we do. And tricks are another really fun one. Dogs tend to love learning tricks so much because they see the joy on everybody's faces around them that is actually a really fun thing to do at home on a rainy day, is just run your dog through tricks that they know how to do and try to teach them new tricks. They tend to really enjoy that.
So coming from someone who, we have a chocolate lab who will be 3 in June, and then we have a little 2-year-old Beagle Cocker Spaniel mix. So very busy dogs, very intelligent dogs. They're both, hunting breeds, very scent oriented, and lots of energy in our house. So I'm jealous because we don't have a Zoom room close to us.
I know.
But how would pet owners, if somebody's listening and they're thinking, is there a Zoom room near me, how do they find you guys?
Yeah, so if they go to our website, zoomroom.com, one of the very first things they'll see is finding a location so that they can see if they have one near them. We're a growing franchise. We have 9 locations right now, but we're looking to grow pretty significantly in the next couple of years. The other thing is that it's a franchise. So if someone is oh my gosh, I really wish we had a Zoom room, we'll go ahead and open one.
Yeah.
Contact me and let's open. Portland and Maine would be an amazing place.
It would.
For a Zoom room, for sure. for sure.
Yeah,
So,
like you were saying, I mean, the long winter months, we actually, Sadie, our chocolate lab, she loves nose work, any kind of scent work. And we started with the hiding of the treats because she's extremely food motivated. And now we've worked up to essential oils. And we do that at home. And thankfully, we live in the country and we do have a big area for them to use in the summertime, but we get a little stir crazy in the winter around here. So we're always looking for things to do, and definitely scent work has been a godsend for us in the wintertime. It has kept them from chewing through the walls.
Yeah, it really does. And it's enough of a brain strain on them that it ends up making them a little bit tired.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do with your dog to make them sort of tired that doesn't involve physical activity. We didn't even talk about puzzle toys. But puzzle toys, puzzle feeders are phenomenal boredom busters for dogs, whether it's long winters or just a simple rainy day, or an owner with an injury and they can't get out and walk, or a dog with an injury and they're not allowed out to walk. Both my dog and I are injured right now.
Oh, no.
So he's finally off his bed rest, but I'm on mine for another couple weeks. So it's been trying. I can't walk him. He can't walk anyway. And so we've been relying a lot on puzzle feeders. He's eating his meals out of his evening meals out of different types of puzzles. And there's a million of them on the market that are phenomenal and wonderful. We recommend them for all dogs.
Absolutely.
Dogs in the wild. Yeah, dogs in the wild don't ever get a bowl of food put in front of them. And so it is actually part of their instinctive DNA to like to forage and scrounge for food. Most people see this in their dogs all the time, out for walks, and they're like dive bombing for that like smeared McDonald's on the sidewalk or some chicken bone or something, right? They love to scavenge. They like to do it. And so giving them puzzle feeders that make them work for their food is not cruel or mean or anything like that. It's actually enjoyable for them. You'll see dogs who do puzzle feeders, their tails are wagging the whole time. They just love it. So that's another great way to do boredom busting. If you can't get your dog out for one reason or another, is to invest in some, and they're not expensive, most of them, is to invest in something like a kibble nibble or a magic mushroom or a green feeder or a fun feeder. These are all products that are, some of them slow down your dog's feeding and make it a puzzle, but your dog is stationary the entire time. And others actually, like the kibble nibble, require that your dog roll it around all over the place. And so they actually do get a little bit of a walk-in while they're rolling that toy around. So I forget exactly. One of the companies out there, I think it was the Kibble Nibble makers of Kibble Nibble, had said at some point in time that if it takes your dog like 30 minutes to eat out of a Kibble Nibble, that's equivalent to like a 20-minute walk. And I don't think there's any scientific basis for that, but I do know that my dog is going around and around and around our first floor of our house for the 20 minutes or so that it takes him to eat out of the Kibble Nibble. So it does provide a little bit of exercise as well.
Fantastic. That's a great point. We do use puzzle feeders with our dogs. Like I said, here in Maine, winters get long. So it's great. I am looking forward to checking out Zoom Room and seeing how it expands. It's exciting that you guys are looking to grow. That's great.
Yeah, we would love to be everywhere. We like to be the sort of epicenter of the dog-loving community for every place that we're located, and do social events and have fun and create that environment and create that sense of community that dog owners love.
Yeah, absolutely. Everywhere we go, you meet somebody that has a dog and wants to talk about their dog, and you want to talk about your dog. And it's definitely a community. It's always, easiest icebreaker. That's what I always tell everybody, that whenever I'm in a new situation, whether it's a business meeting or we're just out to a restaurant and sitting up at the bar with a bunch of other people that you don't know, it's the easiest icebreaker is to just talk about your dog. So it's a great, I love the idea, the concept of Zoom Room. It's a great way for animals to bond with their owners, but it's also a great way for owners and animals to come together and be social. And I just think it's a fantastic idea. So I'm looking forward to seeing it grow.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get one up in Bangor, Maine at some point.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome. If anybody's listening and you live in this area and you want to go in on a franchise, just let me know. That's our goal, is to have one everywhere, because dogs love it, owners love it. It's such a social, wonderful thing to do, and it's so good for the dogs so that they're not unemployed and overweight like so many dogs in our country are. Absolutely, It's an epidemic.
It is. It's a problem.
I need to thank Liz again and the Zoom Room team. That was a wonderful interview. I learned a lot from her, and I hope that you guys did as well. I hope you enjoyed her interview. And if you live near a Zoom Room, check that out. Make sure you jump on our website, theoryofpets.com. Leave a comment about Zoom Room, what you thought, and for sure, if anybody knows about a Zoom Room in their area, check it out. If you haven't already, it might be a great thing that you and your dog can do on a rainy day or to pass some time in the winter months or something like that. Of course, if you guys have any questions for me or that I can pass on to Liz, you can leave those on our website as well. And while you're on there, it's theoryofpets.com. There is a little link where you can go to iTunes and just leave a quick review. It only takes a couple of minutes, and that really helps me out when I'm reaching out to experts like Liz to try to get them to come on the show. I can show them that you guys are really out there and you are really listening and you enjoy it and you want more. So be sure, if you have the time, just jump on there and leave me a quick review. I appreciate you guys listening, and I will be back next week with another episode.